Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Kansas City Profiles presented by Easton Roofing. Still only 41 years of age, Brett Ballard has packed a whole lot of basketball experiences and life experiences into that period of time. Now the 4-year coach at Washburn University, his second head coaching stop. He also has been an assistant coach. He had a playing career that sent him from Hutchinson High School, where he grew up in Hutchinson, born and raised there, the son of a coach, then on to Cowley County Community College, then to his hometown junior college, Hutchinson, playing for some fine coaches along the way, as he'll describe ahead. But then, of course, he played at the University of Kansas for one Hall of Fame coach, that being Roy Williams, and then he coached for 7 years under another Hall of Fame coach, Bill Self, taking a lot of lessons from them and bringing a lot to the table as well. Not a big guy, a point guard who actually was a 2-year contributor for Kansas, played on a Final Four team, and then decided to go into coaching, originally thinking he'd be a high school coach, but that path was changed just a bit when Bill Self offered him the opportunity, as he'll describe, to be a volunteer on his staff, and eventually parlaying that into a career at KU that led him on to first a head coaching stop at Baker University, then joining Danny Manning at Tulsa University and on to Wake Forest, and then taking a job at Washburn University, where he is very happy and very successful as the Washburn Ichabods head coach from 2017 until today. Happily married to a woman he met through basketball, of course, and the father of 3 children. Brett Ballard tells a great story, and he does it coming up next. It's a basketball life with all kinds of star people in it, and we'll hear about it coming up next on Kansas City Profiles, presented by Easton Roofing.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors, offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing, integrity matters. We're here once again with Dr. Brad Woodall from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Springtime, good weather's finally here. People want to stay active, and it's your job to make sure that they can stay active, and be healthy.
Danny, we see a lot of not just weekend warriors, but people that every day are having that want to get back to activity. Whether you're starting with walking, jogging, or maybe that first 5K of the year, we want to help you out. We specialize in taking care of all ages, from kids all the way to grandmas and grandpas, but absolutely specialize in getting you back to full function and keeping you in great shape.
So in short, how do we go about doing that?
The first thing is to schedule a consultation with one of our doctors and therapists so we can see how you move and how you're supposed to move. Based on our assessment, we can put together a short treatment plan and a set of goals to help you both feel better, function better, and most importantly, stay better for this year and many years to come.
Learn more at asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Brett, you grew up in Hutchinson, Kansas. Tell me a little bit about family life for a young Brett Ballard.
Yeah, I look back and I'm actually, Hutch was a population of probably 45,000. So I think for me, now as a coach, it was a great environment to grow up in because it was, it had a small town feel. Certainly wasn't a metropolis, but kind of a small town. You kind of had the farming influence and the small town friendliness that you would get from a smaller town around the state of Kansas, but also big enough to where the population was size-wise big enough that you had a little bit of the bigger city feel. And so for me, I thought that was a great situation for me to grow up in. My father was a teacher. He was a high school teacher, science teacher, and a coach. And my mother was a secretary actually at the high school, and my younger sister. And so grew up in a great environment and saw how hard my parents worked. And we never had much. We didn't grow up with a ton, and we didn't have much, but I never knew any different. And they put me in some great situations, just both how they emphasize education and then the opportunities I had through sports and the sacrifices they made. Obviously, I appreciate those a lot more now than I probably did when I was younger. But no, it was a great situation for me growing up in Hutch, and proud to be from there. And some cool things in Hutch, the state fair and the Cosmosphere, and a lot of good people back in Hutch that helped influence me.
When did you start getting an interest in sports? Obviously, your dad was a coach, but was it something that was just part of your life from the early times on?
Yeah, just as a young kid, even at probably 4, 5, 6, just always liked, loved PE class and loved being around sports and watching, not as many options on TV back then, but, loved watching sports and had the Nerf hoop up in my house. And, I grew up right across the street from the middle school. So I was really fortunate to have a full-length basketball court right across the street from me, like literally straight across from my house. And so from as young as I can remember, I used to love going across the street and shooting hoops and shooting on my Nerf goal. And so, sports were just always a part of my identity and what I enjoyed doing. And, my parents, I never ever felt pressured by it. I think the first time, I really felt like it was, really even realized that, how hard you had to work at it and really put any thought process behind that was probably not till middle school. But before that, it was just something you did for fun. And I was always my family, we were KU fans. So the Kansas basketball influence was there from a young age. And we used to, catch the games that were available on TV. Again, back then you may catch them every other Saturday on TV. They didn't have all the, channels available that you do now, but always would watch the Jayhawks and try to emulate, different KU players. Can very distinctly remember when they won the championship in '88 and how excited I was about that. We actually came up to the parade in Lawrence, and that was a big deal in my household. But yeah, and my father coached. He was a middle school basketball coach, high school basketball coach, coached football and some other sports too. And so again, just being around that with him and being at some of his practices was probably, looking back, very influential as well. But just always enjoyed it and enjoyed the competition of it, enjoyed being around teammates. And again, it was the competition, but just I had fun playing, whatever sport I was in, basketball, baseball, soccer, I did a lot of different sports growing up.
Was basketball always your favorite?
Yes. Yeah, basketball was always my favorite. And I think a lot of that had to do with, just watching KU basketball and the influence that had on me and wanting to emulate those players. But yeah, basketball was always my favorite sport. Again, I growing up with that court right across the street. It's funny, opportunities present themselves, and who knows what my path would have been. But certainly, again, it's just, you look back and that was pre-video games and iPads and cell phones. And so, when you got home from school, it's like, all right, what do you want to do? You went outside. And so when I went outside, I sometimes play with the neighborhood kids, but a lot of times I'd go outside and shoot hoops. That's just kind of what you did for fun. And even on the weekends when there wasn't anything going on, it's like, all right, go outside, and you played and you rode bikes and you did things outside, and you made up games and used your imagination. And I have kids now of my own, and I'm not mad about the fact, they've got this technology at the palm of their hands. And if I would have had that when I was their age too, I probably would spend more time on video games or on cell phones or iPads and that type of stuff. And I get it. But, when I was growing up, and not that I'm ancient, but it was, I'm 40 years old. So at that time, it was just, hey, you went outside and you did that. But basketball for sure was always my favorite. I was always, pretty good at it. And then again, with my dad being a coach, had a decent understanding at how you approach things. And but I love soccer. I played baseball and had good youth coaches growing up, and soccer was fun, baseball was fun, and ran some AAU track growing up. So I did a little bit of everything. Back then it was kind of seasonal. You played basketball in the winter, and you played baseball in the summer, and soccer, in the fall. And now everything crosses over, and we're pretty much everything's year round. But back then you just kind of played the sport that was in that season.
You weren't a big guy, but you said that you aren't a big guy, but you said that you were always pretty good at it. So you weren't somebody who was like teeny tiny for your age at some point and had to struggle with that?
You know what? I was always small. I wouldn't say I was teeny tiny, but I was always, the undersized. I'm 6 foot tall now, but even my senior year going into my senior year of high school, I was about 5'8", 5'9". I grew a couple inches my senior year, and actually grew an inch my freshman year in college to get to 6 foot. And I was always thin and little, and I think a lot of people say they're competitive. I always just had that competitive juice in me from a young age, and I don't know. My parents, my dad was competitive, and maybe that was some of it. But I just always, if we were keeping score in any type of competition, I loved to compete, and that was just in my DNA from a young age. And so, I think in basketball, I'm actually, grateful that I was smaller, because I had to figure out a way to compete with kids that were bigger and stronger and faster than me, my pretty much my entire life. And so, when I got to high school and grew a little bit, I think sometimes you see these kids that they're big from a young age, and they have that advantage at a younger age. But then all of a sudden, when everybody kind of catches up to them athletically, at times they struggle because they haven't had to figure out how to compete against bigger, stronger kids. And sometimes they don't have that skill set or have developed that skill set because they've just relied on their athleticism. And, that's honestly one of the things that bugs me about youth basketball right now. You go, and I have kids in, and I have an 8th grade boy and a 5th grade boy. And you go watch youth basketball now, and everybody wants to trap and press, and it's become a game of aggression. And I understand that that's part of any sport. You got to be, aggressive, and you got to attack things, and teams that have that mindset are going to get rewarded at any level. But there's also, a skill set, and I also think that we're eliminating a lot of kids at a young age, and in particular in basketball, because some kids just aren't as developed as others. So when we turn it into this press, trap, aggression game at 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, I don't know that that's the best thing for our game. And fortunately, when I grew up, wasn't as much of that. It was more of a half court. Let's actually learn how to play the right way, because by the time you get to 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, you can't just out athlete people. There's a an IQ that comes into it, a skill set that's involved. And again, for me, just growing up, I had really good youth coaches that taught us to play the right way. And then I had, good middle school. My high school coach, Phil Anderson, was a phenomenal high school coach. So, and through my dad, I taught the right way to play, and the IQ of the game was always something that benefited me. But no, I was kind of small and scrappy, really, my entire career, but especially when I was younger, I wasn't very big. I wasn't very big at all.
How would you describe your relationship with your parents?
It was great. My dad and mom worked hard, and I tried to stay in line because it was, time when, you didn't do what you're supposed to do, there was going to be repercussions. And, so, I wasn't a perfect angel, but for the most part, it was like, you did what you did. If you had chores, you did those. And if you were supposed to do your homework, you did that. And you followed the rules, and you were expected to follow the rules. But they were, and still are, very loving and, incredibly influential to me, just as far as the role models they were and the example they set. It wasn't, they verbalized it some, but I just saw it every day. I saw how hard they worked and how they treated people, and how they communicated with people, and they were humble and kind and respectful. But also, raised their kids and were proud of the accomplishments that their kids had, and you felt that, and I felt that. So, yeah, I've been really, been blessed. They've been great parents, and now I see how much they spoil my kids as grandparents, and I'm kind of jealous because I wish I could have experienced some of this that my kids are experiencing. But it's great. They still live in Hutch. They still live in the house I grew up in. And my father retired from teaching a few years ago. My mom retired a few years ago. So they come up to Topeka. My sister lives in Eudora. They're up here a lot. They come to almost all the Washburn games, and they come watch my kids play a lot of their sporting activities. So we get to see them a lot, and it's fun, how that relationship has changed for me, but then cool to see them interact with my kids as well.
When did you realize or think that basketball was going to be your path, either through playing or maybe eventually coaching? You would eventually go on to be an education major, so I guess that was part of what your thought process was. Was there any time that you thought you might do something else but follow a path that would lead to basketball coaching?
Yeah, it's funny looking back. So when I was in grade school, I was 100% certain I was going to start for the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, that's just what I assumed, and I was going to play for the Jayhawks. I didn't really care about the NBA. That really wasn't something. I mean, kind of once, later I got a little bit older, when I started watching Jordan and the Bulls, and then that kind of influenced me. But like my thing, if you would ask me in third grade, hey, what are you going to do for college? I was like, well, I'm going to go start for the Jayhawks. I'm going to play for Larry Brown. And I would have said, I'm going to play for Roy Williams. And that was like a no-brainer. And then you get to this point, probably like 8th, 9th grade, you start realizing, wow, like how good people are. And you start, really seeing like, okay, I'm a 5'8", 110-pound point guard. And you start seeing how athletic and good some of these other players are you're starting to play against. And, reality kind of starts to set in of like, okay, where can I realistically play? And, just specifically from a playing standpoint, then, as I went through high school, I was getting recruited heavily by the junior colleges in Kansas. Back then, they had to take at least, you could only take 6 to 8 out-of-staters. So they had to recruit the in-state players really hard. And so, I was really recruited by pretty much every JUCO in the state in my junior and senior year. And some of the D2s showed some interest. But, there was a reality from a basketball standpoint, like, okay, I know I can go play at least 2 more years of basketball and get my school paid for, which was cool. But I really hadn't given it a whole lot of thought beyond that. And as far as, like making a career of it, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. As I got to probably senior year in high school, I started thinking about maybe coaching and teaching would be a good opportunity. And then going in, even in my first year or two of junior college, I was kind of keeping my options open as far as what I wanted to do. But then kind of settled in on, the fact that I was a high school coach and a teacher. That's just kind of my career path, what I'd planned. And I thought that would be a great way to make a living. And so that's kind of the way I was tracking. And really that was my trajectory until Coach Williams left for Carolina. And when he left and Coach Self came in, it presented an opportunity from that I wanted to explore as far as being on his staff. But really up until that point, I was really okay and excited about being a high school coach and a teacher. And then when Coach Williams left, it was a year after my senior year. I was kind of around the program the year after, but I was finishing up my degree and really getting ready to start my student teaching. And when Coach Self came in, I got an opportunity there, and we can talk about that probably more in depth. But again, I just had planned on the high school route, and then the college scenario presented itself, and I've been in it ever since.
You mentioned you were recruited by the junior colleges, but obviously Hutch has always been a great program, and they had a lot of guards, so you didn't start at Hutch either. I mean, you didn't start off your junior college career at Hutch either.
Yeah, so growing up, Hutch, and a lot of listeners probably know this, but the junior college tournament, national tournaments in Hutch, and the Hutch Blue Dragons, when I was growing up, they won the championship in 88 and 92, same year as KU, and then 92, I believe. And so they had some phenomenal teams. And again, when I was growing up, that's the other thing you did. You went to Hutch JUCO games, and the sports arena in Hutchinson seats about 7,500 people. And against some of the better teams, I mean, there'd be 6, 7, it'd be sold out against some of the better teams. But even on a bad night, they would draw 3, 4, 5,000. And again, this is a time when not as many people had youth activities going on, and there wasn't as many games to watch on TV. So that was kind of the deal. So growing up, beyond KU, the Blue Dragons was the deal. And so as I got into high school, they recruited me a little bit, but again, I was a 5'9", 5'10", average speed guard. It was good and scrappy, but I could see why, I think some people look back and they put this big chip on their shoulder about, this and that, they should have done this and that, but I get it. Like, they had some really good players in there. And so they kind of recruited me a little bit my senior year, but not really hard. And a guy by the name of Craig Fletchall had played for my dad in high school, and he was an assistant coach at Cali County at the time. And he recruited me hard and made me feel like that was the place I needed to go. And Craig's actually the head coach at Martin County Community College now. He's been in junior college a long time. But Coach Fletchall recruited me to Cali. And when I went on the visit, I could tell they wanted me. And so I ended up going to Cali my freshman year. And, fortunately ended up starting there as a freshman. I started every game as a freshman. We had a pretty good year. And then after that year finished up, I got word from my high school coach that, hey, Hutch is losing some guys, and they'd be really interested in you transferring back. And at that time, you could transfer back to your home county without having to sit out. And, again, it's probably the same scenario that a lot of these kids are going through now with the transfer portal. I had to really think about what was best for me. And I was in a good situation at Cali, but going back home to play for my hometown team, my parents were still there. It was just an opportunity that I couldn't turn down. So I ended up, telling my coach at Cali and committing to Hutch. And that was actually for Tim Jankovic. Tim was the coach there. And then about a week after I commit, Coach Jankovic takes an assistant job with Vanderbilt. So now I'm like, oh, great. Like, how's this going to work out? But fortunately, they hired, they moved up the assistant, Tim Duryea, played for Tim Duryea. Tim actually was the head coach at Utah State for a couple of years just recently. Now he's an assistant at Boise State. Tim Jankovic, went on to be an assistant with Coach Self at KU, and now he's the head coach at SMU. So it's crazy how things work out. But yeah, I went from Cali my freshman year to Hutch, and had a great experience at Hutch my sophomore year in junior college.
And you played very well there, and when you're in the situation you were in, KU was interested, you'd end up becoming a preferred walk-on and eventually get a scholarship. But if you had gone someplace like Centenary, which was recruiting you, you probably knew you would play more. What was that decision like for you when you knew that probably your playing opportunities were, while you played a lot, you played most games when you were at KU for 2 years, you didn't play a lot, but you obviously knew that the playing opportunities would be greater somewhere else. What was that whole decision-making process for you like?
For sure. So, I'm in my senior year at Hutch, and, was a weird year. We had a good team, but and again, this is when you had 6 to 8 out-of-staters on the roster, and we ended up for one reason or another, we had guys transfer, guys leave, we had to kick some guys off, and so we ended the year with just 2 out-of-state guys on that Hutch team, and so we were playing basically 5 in-state guys and then 2 out-of-state guys. We played about 7 guys, kind of an 8th guy in the rotation some. But I ended up having a really good year, and it was fun. But there was no backup point guard, so I literally my sophomore year at Hutch would play the entire game. And I joke with my old JUCO coach now that I could turn it over 5 times in a row and kick the ball into the stands, and he was still going to have to play me. It was kind of a beautiful situation where there was no pressure on me to have a sub because we really didn't have a backup point guard the last 3 months of the year. So I was getting recruited out of junior college by a lot of some NEIs, some of the D2s in the state, and then some low majors, some low major D1 schools. And to be honest with you, the school I was probably most interested in, if I hadn't gone to KU, was probably Newman out of Wichita. They were recruiting me, and Coach Potter was there then, and I liked the situation there. And I probably would have gone there, but what happened was I communicated to my assistant junior, my coaches at junior college that, hey, I kind of would be interested in just going to KU. My buddies were there. I had played 2 years of college basketball, and so part of me was like, maybe I'd just try to go to KU and just try to walk on. I knew they had walk-on tryouts every year, and I'd always kind of wanted to go to KU. And at that point, I thought, and my best friends, I had 5 or 6 guys from high school that were all going to school there. And I was like, man, I'd really like to maybe just try to go to KU. And so fortunately, my assistant junior college coach, Eric Duft, had worked KU camps and knew the coaching staff there and communicated, hey, we got this young man here that we think would be a really good preferred walk-on for you if you guys are interested. And, again, fortunately, the timing of it, they were looking for a walk-on. So Coach Holliday had come to the region tournament to actually see another player they were looking at, and he caught one of our games. And so my teammate, Chris Zerby, actually played phenomenal in the game that Coach Holliday was at. He was about 6'5", and he had the game of his life. He had 30 points. And so Coach Holliday said, hey, would both of you maybe be interested in being preferred walk-ons? So we went up and met with Coach Williams that year, late April. Had a great meeting with Coach, and Coach said, listen, if you come as a preferred walk-on, I'm going to treat you just like I treat any of the other players. Your expectations are going to be the same as other players. If our starters get steak, you get steak. If our starters got to get up at 6 a.m. in condition, you got to get up at 6 a.m. condition. And, he presented an opportunity that I obviously just couldn't turn down. So, I went to KU. Really, to me, I thought about it for about 2 seconds. As soon as we had the meeting with Coach Williams, I knew that's what I wanted to do. But I also knew, for me, I wanted to coach, and I thought, man, what better way than go learn from a Hall of Fame guy? Now a Hall of Fame guy. He wasn't then, but he was tracking that way. Go learn from a Hall of Fame coach, and have an opportunity to be in the program at KU. And honestly, at that time, I knew the chances of me playing were probably slim to none. But went up there and got the opportunity to walk on. And, for me, I am proud of the fact, just continue to work and compete and scrap and earned really solid minutes my junior year and played, big minutes in state tournament games and played in the rotation. My junior year is kind of the second guard off the bench. And so sometimes I'd play and sometimes I wouldn't. A lot of it depended on foul trouble or how the flow of the game went. But, Coach Williams put me on scholarship my second semester of my junior year. And then I was on scholarship my senior year. And my senior year, our team was a little bit better. And so I didn't play as much, which was probably a good thing for KU fans because that meant our team was a little bit better. But, yeah, getting in the rotation both of those years was, something I look back and really proud of. But for me, the decision was I knew I wanted to coach, and I knew that, being in that program, especially for me just growing up as a KU fan, was an incredible opportunity. And then, getting to actually play for me personally at that time in my career was icing on the cake.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the Pure Gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses, and 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days, 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
The bitter cold snap in February was just another intense reminder of how important it is to have a quality heating and cooling company on your side. That's why you need to know about my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Jeff Dillon and his top-quality staff provide honest, affordable, and reliable service all year long. Their number one priority is taking care of the customer and focus on being genuine, always following through and standing behind what they say and do. If you need HVAC or AC repair, it's important you get help from a team of professionals. Dillon's Heating and Cooling's team can walk you through a range of products, the advantages of heating and cooling systems, and ultimately help you find the best HVAC system for you. They're always glad to answer your questions and set up an appointment for an installation consultation. Whether you're looking to upgrade to a newer model of your current system or need one installed in a new home, give my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling a call today at 913-214-0529. That's 913-214-0529, or visit dillonsheatingandcooling.com to answer all of your questions. Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Their slogan is their goal, always treating you like family. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. What is it like for, you mentioned your first year you were part of the rotation, and then you had some injuries toward the end of the year, and you actually did play, as you said, some significant minutes. And your senior year, you played in most of the games, but a little bit less. But that's a very good team. You had an NBA guard on that team. What's it like battling players of that talent in practice every day?
Yeah, what happened for me, Danny, when I got there, I was scared to death my first couple of days there because I didn't know if I belonged, and these are guys that I grew up, I watched KU, and then even the guys on the team I had, watched from Hutch JUCO, and so guys like Kirk Heinrich and Nick Collison and Drew Gooden and Jeff Boschee were there, and so my first week I can't imagine how bad I was. I remember bits and pieces of it, but I know I wasn't very good on the court because I was just, so unsure. But what happened for me was you go against those guys every day, and either you figure out a way to compete against them and get better and hold your own, or if you're not going to compete, you're not going to put the work in, and if you're not going to go at them, then you're going to get eaten up every single day. And so once I figured out that, if I just play hard, if I'm scrappy, if I'm tough, and if I do the little things right, I can hold my own. And then little by little, I just got more and more confidence. But what also happened was those guys got confidence in me. And so when you're going against a Kirk Heinrich or Jeff Oshie every day, I could see my game getting better in leaps and bounds, just trying to keep up with guys like that and learning and playing against guys like that every day. You're bound to get better. But also, some things started happening. Like in pickup, you would have pickup games, and you'd pick teams. And the first couple of weeks, I'm the last guy picked every single time, and I get it. I would have picked me last too. But in pickup, all of a sudden now I'm not the last guy. I'm getting picked over some guys just because they wanted me on their team because they knew I was going to play the right way and scrap. And so I can distinctly remember some times in our preseason camps before we started the season where even my junior year, I'm getting picked ahead of some guys, and that gave me a ton of confidence knowing that, all right, these guys are starting to believe in me, and then once we started practicing, again, I went through a whole other phase of being nervous in practice and being with Coach Williams. But once I got past that after the first couple of weeks and saw that, the assistants and Coach Williams had belief and confidence in me, that allowed me, to my confidence overall just to skyrocket. And obviously then when your confidence is the right way and you prepare the right way, the results will come.
There was one story I read in preparing for this that you got an opportunity to play some more minutes in, I think, a Big 12 tournament game, and you played well, but you missed 3 shots. And after the game, Coach Williams said, guys were kind of mad at him because he never misses a shot when we play in practice, and he went out and missed 3 tonight. So even though you contributed, you were a good shooter, a 3-point shooter at KU, 38%, and it didn't shoot that many. But were you how good a shooter were you, and did the time at KU make you better? And is that story true?
Yeah, no, it was. I was always a good shooter. That was always part of my game, and that was, I was a good shooter in younger and in high school and junior college. That was always part of my game. And 2 things that happened. One, my junior year, I was getting to play. I got in rotation. I was starting to play some, but when I got in there, again, I would just try not to screw up. I would move the ball. I would try to play solid defense. I would just make the most basic plays. And I had some opportunities to probably shoot in the first couple of games and turned them down just because I was trying to make sure that we got the ball to the right guys to shoot it. And after probably a month of that, we're practicing. I could distinguish we're practicing over in Horace, which is where our practice gym used to be. Now it's the volleyball center. And Coach pulled me aside after practice. He said, "Brett, what do you think you do best when you get in the game for this team?" And I gave the answer that I thought he wanted to hear, which is defense. I said, well, I think I guard a little bit. And looking back, I was probably the worst defender on the court at the time. But he said, well, he kind of nodded, and I could tell that wasn't the answer he wanted. He said, yeah, you're a solid defender. He goes, but what else do you do well on the offensive end? And I said, well, I can make shots. And he goes, exactly. He goes, I think that, I see you make shots every day in practice. I know you work on it. He goes, when you're open in the games, we want you to shoot it. And so that, for me, again, just that little conversation gave me so much confidence. So then I was getting in games, man, and I had an inch of space. I was trying to get them up. And so then they kind of had to say, hey, listen, we want you to shoot it, but we want you to shoot the right shots. Like, let's try to get a great shot here, not just a marginal shot. So they kind of had to rein me back in. But no, in practice, I was always on the point guard for the second team. I told Coach, I said, listen, I know I'm in the rotation some, but I would rather just be the scout team guy who has freedom to go make plays and make shots. And I felt like my game could expand more doing that. And I thought it could help our team more by being that guy. So in practice, a lot of days, there's no pressure, not very much pressure in practice, especially when you're on the scout team. So I was shooting on a big old hoop in practice. I was shooting on a hula hoop in practice. And so there were some days, man, where that ball went in the basket a lot. And, it was fun going at Kirk and Nick and Drew and Boshi and those guys on the starting 5. And then you get in that game and, that rim gets a little smaller in those games when there's 16,000 people in the stands or, Big 12 tournament, wherever it may be. So, yeah, if I missed shots in the game, they would give me a hard time because they'd be like, man, you never miss season practice on us. Why don't you, we want you to make them in the game. But for sure, I remember Coach saying that after one of our games, giving me a hard time that, if I'm going to make them in practice, I might as well make them in the game.
What just sort of encapsulates what it's like since you weren't just somebody who came in at the end and waved a towel most of the game. I mean, you were somebody who was a significant player, but what is it like? What is the sense for a Kansas kid to be playing at Allen Fieldhouse and it's packed and you're making an impact?
Yeah, the program, I think I had a decent understanding of it growing up. Again, a huge KU fan and watching it and following it. So I had a better understanding of it than probably 99% of the guys that come into it. Every guy that comes into the program thinks I'm going to change the program. That's just the nature of it. When you recruit a bunch of 5- and 4-star guys, they come to KU and your mindset is, well, I'm going to change the program. And what you figure out, or what the ones that stay around, and it's different now a little bit with what's going on with college basketball, but what you do figure out, the ones that stay and have success, is that the program is so much bigger than one individual. And how much people care about Kansas basketball. Again, I had a decent understanding of it, but once you live it and breathe it and feel it, it's unbelievable. It's crazy. And from how you can influence young people to how much older people care about it to how it can, potentially, which it has for me, change, the trajectory of the rest of your life because of, the things you can do after life when people know that you played for the University of Kansas. Those things to me, I think that I knew it going in, but until, you get back from a Final Four from an Elite Eight game and there's 12,000 fans waiting in Allen Fieldhouse to just at midnight just to thank the team for coming back. You walk through Topeka Regional Airport where we fly in and out of with our charter planes, and there's 3,000, 2,000 people, 1,000 people in there at 11:30 at night. I mean, those type of things stick with you the rest of your life. And so for me, it was just seeing it growing up, but then getting to live and breathe it and go through it as a player. It was obviously two of the best years of my life, and just memories that were created that will last a lifetime.
Well, then it was time to move on and start to pursue the coaching, and you touched on the fact that your thoughts were with becoming a high school coach, but then this opportunity opened up. What were the decision-making processes there? If you go and try to become a high school coach and you'll teach and whatever, if you're going to enter the coaching, and you did at Kansas under Coach Self, you're going to start out at the bottom and you're going to do video coordination and all kinds of other stuff. What was the decision-making process there to enter in that way?
Yeah, so I coming from a junior college, I transferred hours and all that stuff. I was in no hurry to get out of college. And so I was on the 5-year program from anyways. I loved life at KU, and I was in no hurry to get out of school and get into the real world. So after my senior year playing, I still had a year of school to finish up, and it wasn't. I passed all I was a good student and all that, but just coming from junior college and the way hours transfer and all that, I needed a 5th year to get my degree done. And so I was doing that and then getting ready to do my student teaching when Coach Williams left that fall, or excuse me, that spring, and Coach Self came in. And so when Coach Self came in, he had probably been there about 3 weeks, and I set up a meeting with Joni, his secretary, and see if I could go in and just talk to him about a potential spot on his staff. And, I remember going to that meeting in my mind. I thought, I'm going to go in. I'm going to wow him in this meeting. He's going to give me a spot on this staff. This is a no-brainer. And so I go and meet with Coach, and I can remember this as clear as day. But, he's 3 weeks into the job at Kansas, and I'm a head coach now. So, the amount of things on his plate at that point in time, he could work 18 hours, straight every day and still not get to everything that, all the boxes you got to check as a head coach at Kansas right when you first get there. So for him to even meet with me now, looking back, I appreciate. But I go in and first of all, Coach is unbelievable with names. So he looks up, and we had played against him, both my junior and senior year. We played his Illinois teams, and so he goes, "Hey, Brett, good to see you, and come on in. What can I do for you, bud?" So I give him a spiel about how I want to coach, and blah, 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 blah. And I think I nailed it. And he's kind of, and coaches, and now meeting with coaches, he can seem distracted, but he's listening. So he's kind of on his phone, and he's kind of doing stuff. I'm like, man, I don't know if he's even listening to me. But now after having worked with him, I know that's just kind of how he operates. But anyways, he says, "Listen, I appreciate it, but I got my, I kind of got my staff lined up, and I don't think I have an opportunity for you." But as I'm getting ready to walk out, he goes, "Hey, listen, but I know about you. I know what you're about. And if you want to come around and volunteer, we're happy to have you around. You're more than happy, welcome to come in the office and, come by practice. And if you want to volunteer, man, I'd love to have you around." So I walked out of there, and I can remember I was dejected. I thought for sure, well, that's not going to work. And, he doesn't have a spot. And so I kind of sulked around for a day or two. And I remember calling my dad and talking to him, and he said, "Well, what'd he say?" And told him, and I said, "Yeah," he said, "I could volunteer." And he goes, well, why wouldn't you do that? You volunteer. And he goes, you could volunteer and do that. So that's what I did. I ended up deciding that's probably actually a decent option, and it kind of allows me to put the real world off again another year. So I ended up just going in the office, and I don't even think Coach knew I was there most days. I'd go in and help Ben Miller, and I'd help the video guy, and some days there's stuff to do, some days there wasn't. I'd go to practice most days, and really what this helped me. It's funny. So we fast forward to that now October, and they're getting ready to play, or late October, early November. They're getting ready to play their first games, and they're having a staff meeting in the room next door. And I was never into staff meetings. I was just a volunteer, but I could hear him talking about who was going to film the games, and hey, we need somebody to film the games, and on the road and at home. So I kind of popped my head in and said, "Hey, I'll film the games. You guys need somebody to do it." Like, yeah, actually that'd be good. So the cool thing about that was, one, I got to be at the games. So I set up top at Allen Fieldhouse and I filmed the games. And then I also got to travel with the team. And so then I really felt like I was a part of it. So I did that. I was bartending. I was doing Rock Chalk Sports Talk with Brian Haney at that time to make some money. I was making just enough money to pay rent and get some food. And that was about it. And then I would come up and volunteer with the program, as much as I could. And then the video coordinator left after a year, and I got the video coordinator spot after a year of volunteering. And not that I was making a ton of money then, but I was at least making some decent money then as the video coordinator. I did that for a couple of years, and then moved up to director of ops after a couple of years of that. So it's funny, but the path. But that first year, man, I was just showing up and volunteering my time.
So you actually stayed there for 7 years, and then you made the decision and got the opportunity to go to Baker and be a head coach. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was at Kansas. Life was good. We won the championship in 2008, and we were winning. I was making good money. My wife was from, she went to KU and ran at KU, and we had just had our son, and life was good. And I had some opportunities to go be an assistant coach at some places, at some D1s, but at that time, I really wasn't in a hurry to leave KU, and I didn't really know what the next step was going to be. I kind of wanted to stay at the collegiate level, and for that to happen, probably the next step was going to be leave somewhere and go be an assistant coach someplace. And then the Baker job opened. I knew the athletic trainer there. She had worked our KU camps, and so she contacted me and said, "Hey, you should apply for this job. I think you'd be great." And the very first time I talked to her, I can very distinctly, I said, "I'm not going to Baker. I'm not. Why would I leave KU to go to Baker University? That's crazy." And she goes, "Well, I think you'd like it." And so I thought about it, and I said, "Well, let me just apply and maybe go through that process would be good for me." So I go through the process, and I got fortunate enough to get a Skype interview or a computer interview, which back then that was like, that was crazy to do an interview over the computer. Now that seems like all we do, but
right.
Did a computer interview with the committee, and then fortunately they asked me to come on campus as one of their top 2 candidates. I went on campus, and it's still, I thought, I don't know if I'd take this job, but I went on campus and I loved it. Had a great experience with everybody I interacted with on campus, and ended up, at the end of the campus visit, I could feel like everything was going well. And I finally asked the AD, I said, "Hey, if I were offered this job, what's the salary?" And she tells me the salary, and it was half of what I was making at KU at the time. And so then I'm like, okay. And I'm like, and so my first reaction, how am I going to tell my wife? Like, if I'm going to do this, So I go home and I said, it went really well. And I said, I honestly think I could see myself there. I think it could be a good opportunity to be a head coach. I think it could be a great job to start off in. And so finally I get around to the salary, and she's looking at me like, are you crazy? We got a little boy, we got a house and a mortgage. Like, you're going to cut your salary in half to do what? And so we had some discussions for a few days, and they did offer me the job. Anyways, long story short, I took the job and loved it. It was two of the funnest years I've ever had in my life. Got to run my own program, had phenomenal young people to coach. We had quite a bit of success my second year, made to the NAIA tournament, which I hadn't done there in forever. And then Danny got the job at Tulsa and asked me to come with him. And I honestly didn't think I was going to go. I loved my job at Baker, but financially it made a ton of sense. And I knew I had a great relationship with Coach Manning from working with him at Kansas. I knew Tulsa was a big time mid-major job. It was close enough, in the region that from a family standpoint, it made a lot of sense. So that was a really, really, really difficult decision for me. And honestly, probably one of the hardest days in my life was telling that team I was leaving, but had a great experience there, and still have friends and people I stay in touch with from Baker that, enjoyed working with there.
You referenced your wife a couple of times, and obviously she's a person who you have to run things by, et cetera. How did you guys meet?
Well, we actually, she ran track and cross country at KU. Her sister was actually a manager for the basketball team right before I got there. So crazy story. My senior year, when we went to Maui Invitational, her and her sister flew out there, and they were staying with the other manager, just sleeping on their floors. Like, they basically kind of made it a free trip. Coach Williams used to let the group come in after we got done eating. There's always all this food left, so they'd come in and eat sometimes after we were done. And so her and her sister were out there for the tournament, and the night after our last game, we had a free night. So we were kind of some of the players were hanging out, some manager hanging out. And that's actually where I met her, was over in Maui. And
nice.
This redhead girl's pretty good looking. And so we hit it off pretty good. So we met in Maui, and she at that time was running track and cross country there, and was finishing up. And anyways, we started dating a little bit after that, and now she tells me, she just corrected me on this, but I believe, let me get this right, we've been married for 15 years, and we dated for 2 or 3 years before, 3 years before that at least. So yeah, it's been a good run.
Absolutely. So you actually go to Tulsa and then follow Danny to Wake Forest. And that's a tough league, and it probably didn't go as well, obviously, as you would have liked. And when you've been around success all your career, and you turned around a Baker program, et cetera, how difficult is that?
Yeah, it was challenging. I think in some ways I enjoyed it. In some ways it was, it's very difficult. At the end of the day, it's college basketball coaches. We get paid to win games. I mean, that's ultimately what you're judged by. And we got some momentum at Wake Forest. It was interesting. We got some momentum, kind of had things tracking in the right direction, and just at that level, and especially now with the transfer game, it's tough. But we had a young man named John Collins, who my third year there really blew up. I mean, before John's sophomore year, if you would have told me he was going to be a top 20 draft pick, I would have bet my house, my car, I would have bet everything. Just because, not that I didn't believe in John, but he had just had an okay freshman year and was showing signs of being a good player, but not a top 20 draft pick. And to John's credit, he worked his butt off. He got so much better. And he had an incredible sophomore year and blew up. And all of a sudden, he leaves. We had another, foreign guy that had an opportunity to go play overseas. And you lose two key guys like that at a place like Wake Forest, and all of a sudden you're scrambling to rebuild. And, I left to come to Washburn right after that, and then they had a couple of years where they, were kind of struggled. But that league is brutal. Wake Forest is a very unique job in that the academic piece there is really important. So you got to recruit guys academically that can succeed there. It's hard to take transfers there. You can't take JUCO guys because ours aren't going to transfer in, and it's really hard to take transfers because ours don't transfer into Wake Forest because it's such a strict academic school that you got to try to build it from the ground up. And that is what it is, and that taking the job. But we had some struggles. We also I look back and I'm proud of some of the things we were able to accomplish. We had some great kids there that I'm still very close to, and my family, we loved it in North Carolina. It was a great place to live, and really, really good people out there. So, you always want to win more games, but there's a ton of positive things I look back on, and a lot of positive memories that I can take from there.
How did the Washburn opportunity come up?
So, I'd always kind of kept my eye on this job. I had worked Coach Shipman's camps a couple times as a K player, and, knew about Washburn and followed the program a little bit, just being a Kansas kid. And when I was in Lawrence, and, I'd heard rumblings that Coach Shipman was maybe getting close to wanting to retire. And so when he announced it, which I believe was in the fall, I immediately started doing some groundwork on it, and then, was fortunate enough to get an interview here and come on campus. And again, kind of the same thing as Baker. When I came here, I knew that this is a spot that, I would love to be the head coach. And they had facilities here, great leadership here, and a tradition of, winning basketball games. So when I was offered, the opportunity, it was a no-brainer, and excited to get my family back to this area. And that was kind of icing on the cake, to be honest with you. More so, wanted to run my own program again, be a head coach again, and at a place where the traditions here, facilities and resources are here, and I knew we could win at a high level. It's been an honor to be the coach here.
And you have won at a high level, and that's a very difficult league, and you still are a very young coach. 4 years at Washburn, obviously I'm sure you have goals there, but what do you see as your future?
Yeah, I love it here. I'll be honest, I love the situation I'm in. This league at MIAA is incredible. I get to coach really, really good kids here. The level of basketball is a high level of basketball. We got really, really good players at this level, really skilled, not as athletic and long as the Division I guys, but a lot of times more, to be honest with you, more skilled. I think the game, the way we're able to play at this level is, at times a little more pure, not quite as physical, and not as much relying on athleticism as it is on guys that actually know how to play. So it's been a great 4 years. I mean, beyond my expectations, I don't see myself going anywhere in the near future. My family's in a really good situation too. We love Topeka. My kids are at great schools, and the sports teams and all the friends and our circle of friends that we've been able to make here from a family dynamic too. My wife has a great job, and I mean we've got a lot of things here that are incredibly positive. And again, I feel blessed and fortunate to be the head coach here, and I hope I can keep winning us enough games to keep everybody happy, so I could stay here for a long time.
You played for Coach Williams, and obviously you coached with Coach Self. Give us a little compare and contrast of those two, and of course Coach Williams just hung it up, so some reflections on Coach Williams and what you glean from him maybe as a coach and a person, and Bill Self too.
Yeah, very similar individuals, so many similarities. Both have incredible work ethic. Both guys work really hard to recruit at a very high level, which is what sets the best ones apart. You got to continue to bring in the right people and the right type of talent. Both guys, in practices and build a great culture within their programs about playing the right way, playing hard, being tough, being competitive. And you think, well, okay, doesn't everybody tries to do that, but they do it at an elite level, both of them. Both guys get their guys to play unselfishly. Both guys get their guys to buy into the bigger, listen, you come to Carolina or Kansas and it's much bigger than yourselves, and they get guys to buy into that, which is not easy. For Coach, a little bit more old school as far as the Carolina way. And here is our principles. Here's how we're going to do things. We kind of recruit guys in, and then this is how we're going to play. And again, I had a ton of success doing it that way. Coach Self, I think probably one of the bigger differences is he has kind of tweaked his style a little bit to fit the personnel that he has. He used to be a high-low, big-to-big guy, and then when we got Mario Chalmers and Sharon Collins and Russell Robinson, we kind of went to more of a spread, ball screen look. And then with Devontae and Frank and some of those guys, he went to even more 4-round one. And just continue to kind of tweak how he does things. Both guys treat people extremely well, in particular with, just again with Coach Self, just how he treated me working for him and my family, how I see him treat, whether it's the janitor or CEO, it just doesn't matter to him. He is the media, he treats people with the utmost respect. And I think that, for me running a program and the amount of people you interact with, different at Washburn, obviously not on the high of level as KU, but I've seen that. I've seen that you can be a great coach, an efficient coach. You can be challenging to your players, but you can also treat people the right way, treat your players the right way. And so both of those guys have influenced me immensely. I'm probably a little bit more like Coach Self than Coach Williams, just because I was around him longer. And even now, just have more interaction with Coach, just as far as my mentality and philosophy on coaching. But again, both guys are incredible. One of the few guys probably can say they worked for and played for, two Hall of Fame guys. And so much of what I do is influenced by them.
And in conclusion, your basketball journey is far from over, obviously, but just reflect on what a little guy from Hutchinson, how he would feel about seeing where that same guy is today.
Yeah, I pinch myself sometimes, Danny, and I don't want to, make it sound like I'm better, done anything more than other people. But, man, if you would have told me when I was, 10 years old that the opportunities I would have through the game of basketball in particular, and really the people that, I would get to encounter in my life, I would have never believed it. And there are times, and I try to reflect at times and truly appreciate. Again, I know how hard it is to be a head coach at any level, but to be a head coach at Washburn University, that's not something I take for granted ever. I try to come in every day and represent our program and have a work ethic and be as prepared as I can every single day here, because I know, what it means. And so, I have 3 wonderful children and met my wife because of basketball. I've been to, Alaska, I've been to Maui, I've been to New York. I got to go to Israel and do basketball camps. I mean, I've been in every state, basically, of the United States. I get to be in Cameron Indoor. I get to be in Allen Fieldhouse. I get to be, all of these places, but then probably more than anything, just the people, whether it's Coach Williams or Coach Self or, the countless number of players that, now I'm seeing them as grown-ups and their families and their kids and knowing that you had some type of influence on them makes you feel really, really proud. And so it's cool now. I'm getting older, but so a lot of my players now have their own kids and are doing their own things. And so to get to see that, know you were a little bit a part of that, it's been awesome. And to play for KU and be back here in the state and all the things, I've been really blessed. I will say I think I've done a good job of taking advantage of any opportunity that's presented itself, and I think that's something successful people in life do. We all have different opportunities, and certainly I got some incredible opportunities put in front of me. But I will say this: I did take advantage of those 100%, and I didn't take those for granted, and I wasn't looking for the next one. I took advantage of the opportunity that was in front of me, and still try to do that to this day. And I think it's one of the things that's allowed me to have an incredible life and have some success.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.